Shalom party people, and welcome to the 12th C. I got two multi-tools here today that I want to compare and contrast so that way you guys can get my opinion on them. The Gerber Center-Drive. This thing is, I was working in a gun shop at the time, and the Gerber dealers came in and was like, hey, we want to hook you guys up. And I was really attracted to the Center-Drive. It was a neat little option. Got a nice little knife in there. Has a good set of pliers, and the, I guess, selling point on this thing is that it's got a screwdriver that is, at least on one axis, in line with the center of the multi-tool, and that really makes a cool setup. This thing is, I don't know, 5 out of 10 for me. The fact that the pliers open up relatively on one hand, I mean, it doesn't like sling out or anything, but the pliers open up on one hand. They have cutters that are, carbide cutters that are replaceable. That's, I guess a cool thing. It's a nice kind of halfway in between a duckbill and a needle nose plier. It's got a accessible from the outside knife that's on it. It's got this weird little set screw that's on there that actually controls everything, and it fluctuates between too tight and not tight enough, and you may have seen me kind of struggle to open that knife up. That's kind of par for the course on this thing. It does have a bit holder. I've noticed that bit holder that is here to give you your extra one, it doesn't really retain the bits a ton. At least this one doesn't. Maybe that's just something I need to bend that through a little bit more. But all in all, this was a unique setup. It does have other tools on here, but let's face it, it's a multi-tool. Like, some people just really like having that file that's right there. Some people, really want to have the saw and be able to, here goes that bit again. Some people want to, use the saw for what that's worth. I'm like, cool, whatever. Pliers, multi-tool, or pliers, knife, and a screwdriver. That's what you're going to use a multi-tool for. Let's face it. There's a pry bar that's in this thing. Like, honestly, I don't really care, but it is what it is. This thing I bought used. It was in great shape for it being used, but I bought used, and I'm really glad that I bought this used, because for what this is in its little compact, form-fitted form or whatever, I'm glad I didn't pay full price for this. I think I paid half price because it was used. It does the job. The pliers are good. Like, that's something about the Gerber Center-Drive that is nice. The pliers are really good. I really thought I was gonna like the fact that this screwdriver was center. If they would shift over to the exact center, to where it was centered on this axis over in here and not just on this axis, then I think I would actually tolerate this enough, because having a real screwdriver that takes real, 1/4 inch bits, magnetic tip, being able to actually engage on that and, set it in and twist is kind of nice. Like I said, if they would just shift this over on the tool to where it was a true center, that would be incredibly useful. The fact that they call it the Center-Drive and it's centered on one axis but not the other, just makes this a little yet less user-friendly than you think it would be. And that's a little annoying. The proprietary or whatever tool that's on there, or not tool, but the proprietary nut that's on there to tighten and loosen this is a little annoying. It is what it is, but like you can sometimes do it with your fingers. The fact that the knife, when I'm trying to get in there, and that's, I mean, that I'm pushing on that hard and it's stuck. The fact that the knife is sometimes not always usable because that gets a little bit too tight, and then when you try and loosen it just a little bit in there, I just loosened it with my thumb. The fact that you're trying to open the knife actually does tighten that a little bit more, and that, there we go, spun it a little bit looser, and it's still, yeah. And then let me spin it some more. There we go. Let's see. It just makes this thing relatively unusable. There we go. And then when it's too loose, it rattles. So I want to like this tool. I really do. There's just too much about it that I don't care for. Which led me to the Leatherman Skeletool. This thing is smaller, just side by side in its closed configuration. You know, they look similar, but here we go. Side by side, it is smaller. It is more narrow, except for the pocket clip. It's substantially lighter. It is substantially lighter. You get people who are like, oh, I can't open it one-handed, and it's just like, you can. It's just a little bit harder to open one-handed, but there it is. And let's see if, for actual camera effects, if I actually can do this. Yeah, open and close one-handed. That's probably the biggest, if not the second biggest drawback about this one. Leatherman Skeletool. This one is a no fluff tool. You got decent set of pliers. You've got some wire cutters that are in there, which I don't use wire cutters on multi-tools that often. Like if I need wire cutters, I'm about to just go get dedicated wire cutters. But you know, it's there and it's nice for what it is. Closer to a needle nose type plier that's on there, but just a little bit wide for what that is. It has a decent enough knife on it. It's not something that I would primary carry, and if you look, this one actually has a busted tip. I kind of like that, the fact that this tip is busted, because that is just about on this one, just about the right size to where I can use that as a flathead screwdriver if I absolutely have to. Although this does come with some bit storage, screwdriver wise. There is the Phillips, or what they are calling a Phillips on this one. This is a flat bit. They're reversible, which is kind of nice because you have a number 1 or a number 2 right there, and then this one would be the number 1. You do see on the forums that people are talking about these things, that they break these bits from time to time. That's probably the most annoying part of this. I haven't broken the bit yet, and I've been using this thing really hard, and I actually bought this used. So that, for what it's worth, I haven't broken the bits yet, and I'm pretty hard on stuff. And I've had this, I don't know, 2.5, 3 months now, and just not treating it nice. Here is the reversible flat bit head that comes in this, and it is able to be stored right in there. I'll show you guys in just a second when I actually put this back in, but it stores the flat bit right there. It has a pretty decent pocket clip, and I've accidentally bent this out once and just stood on it to bend it back in, and the pocket clip seems to be holding up relatively well. Has a carabiner. I don't know anyone who would use this as a real carabiner, like to carry this on their keys, because this is just heavy to carry on your keys, but it's lighter than the center drive. But the real purpose of this one is the bottle opener that people use there. don't really need a bottle opener. I'm not that worried about it. You can get some 3D printed like hammerheads that will set in, and I think those are kind of cool, but it's just, you know, it's whatever. It makes it a little bit longer. I would say my real complaint, other than the pliers being hard to open one-handed, is there is enough space here. They could have expanded this over just a little bit and made this whole piece solid right here, and not interfered in the last little bit with the knife, and do magnetic 1/4 inch bits. That would have been like, I would have taken normal and not reversible. I would have taken that in a heartbeat, to use a real screwdriver bit and not this. That said, for probably the I don't know, 100 screws that I've engaged with this. Now I'm not talking like I'm going to use this to drive like real deck screws like all the way in, but you know, you can T-handle this thing or pistol grip this thing and go in and actually work a screw. I personally use this if I have less than 4 turns for full rotations on a screw. I have found that this is kind of nice. Snugging something up that's a little loose, this is kind of nice. Like beyond that, I'm gonna use a real screwdriver, but you can put this out, and the angle that is at with the ergonomics of your hand, that is kind of usable. And then if you don't like it, you just pistol grip it, and then you can work the screw there. Like I said, I really personally wouldn't tighten a screw that's more than 4 turns with this thing, but this is pretty nice. I want to say that the Skeletool retails around $80. I think the Center-Drive retails like in the $60 to $90 range, depending on like what features you're getting and, you know, what's going on there and like what creature features it comes with. I wouldn't buy the Center-Drive again. I really wouldn't. I know people who love it. It's not for me. But knife, pliers, and screwdriver, that's what you're going to use in a multi-tool. So just being able to have a decent, accessible knife that is on the correct side for a right-handed individual when it goes in the pocket, just like this, and then you pull it out and you can actually use the knife. And this is, it's your Amazon box opener, you know, cutting tape, those kinds of things. This is not a knife that I'm going to shave with or, you know, anything. It's a utility for what it is. The pliers are nice. I probably use the pliers less than the knife, but slightly more than the screwdriver. The wire cutter, I've tried like 3 or 4 times on it, and it seems to work fine. But you know, it is what it is. It takes the Torx bits for if you need to work on it for whatever reason. That's nice, provided you actually have Torx bits. But you know, if you've got them, they work great. This one I was gifted this used, actually, for what it was. I didn't buy it used. Correction on that. And I accidentally left it outside for 24, 36 hours in the rain, and it was like soaking wet, and it was starting to show some surface corrosion on there. So even though it's stainless, it's, you know, gonna corrode a little bit. Dropped it in a bucket of oil and left it there for 24, 28 hours, pulled it out, wiped everything off, and actually I couldn't open the knife originally one-handed, and now I can. Just worked in all that oil everywhere, and so like, for what it's worth, a bucket of canola oil worked great, because I wasn't going to use the canola oil for anything else, because I don't want to cook with canola oil. But in that, I really like this Skeletool, knowing what I know now about it. If I needed another one tomorrow, I would pay full price for this thing, and I wouldn't bat an eye, because this is a relatively useful tool in my EDC now. It's not my end-all be-all favorite knife that I own, but it's my favorite multi-tool that I own for sure. I think best way to go about getting one of these, because I have heard some QC issues coming out of Leatherman recently, like to the point where pliers are breaking, and like, you shouldn't be breaking a set of pliers off of a Leatherman under normal everyday use. I haven't experienced that with this one. I honestly don't know how old this one is, but it seems to be in very good shape. If I were to buy another one of these and I had a little bit of time to buy another one, I would recommend picking up one used off of eBay, specifically like if you can pick one up in a TSA confiscation lot, then you're really gonna make out like a bandit. You know, you get 5 of them for, you know, $45 a piece. That would be like a really, really great way for somebody to get into one of these. I'm not going to do a product link in the description, solely because I have heard some QC issues out of Leatherman right now, so I'm not going to recommend that you go get one of these at full price directly from Leatherman or anybody like that. And if I were to put an eBay link on one, by the time someone's viewing this a year later, that auction's probably over. But I would highly recommend picking up one of these off of eBay used, for what it's worth. I think that the Leatherman, this one, the Skeletool, is my absolute favorite EDC set of pliers, my absolute favorite EDC screwdriver. There are other options that are out there. The knife is okay. It's usable on a set of multi-tool. Like this is the best multi-tool I've ever owned. And like I said, I would pay full price for this because it is that useful to me. But I would still recommend picking one up used, specifically like a TSA confiscation lot. That would be the way to get into one of these. Side by side, the Gerber Center-Drive Leatherman multi-tool, Leatherman Skeletool. I'd take this hands down. The Gerber Center-Drive is a really cool idea. I just don't like it. So, Skeletool. This thing, like Leatherman, knocked it out of the park. This is a fantastic multi-tool. And I know a lot of you other guys, you know, really like the Surge, really like the Wave, you know, really like the other Leatherman stuff that's out there. And those are great tools. But let's face it, on a multi-tool, what are you really going to use off of it? Knife, pliers, screwdriver. Like that's what you need. And so, yeah, is it minimalistic? Sure. But there are dedicated tools out there for other things. And let's face it, like how often do you really use a pry bar that you don't need like a dedicated one for? Just, it is what it is. Go do hard things.